A lot of people think love is like a social construct, but the way I see love is that it's something that's has so many layers, and there's different kinds of love. Um, I grew up in a religious family, and we're in Christianity taught a lot about the importance of love and loving others. Um, but then we step away from that, and you look at love, and you look at love between two people, um, and everyone's expression of love seems to look different. Um, some people think that love is purely sexual, um, and then when you consider this and juxtapose that against growing up in a once again a Christian household and thinking about love that way, and being taught that at least pre-marriage that's not a kind of love you should have, and um, but to me love is something that I don't think you can give to another person until you love yourself. Um, and I think too often that people um, are not finding a way to love themselves, and when you try to find that in somebody else, then it seems to be something dangerous to try to find it in someone else. Um, Talking about being a man, it's obviously a very interesting time right now in society, especially me being a man, white male. Uh, just beginning to kind of understand more of the privileges that I've had um, for a long time now. Um, and then seeing the others who've had to struggle a lot. Um, and in a lot of ways, I'm thankful to be in the position I am, but at the same time, I'm trying to be more aware of the privileges that I have, and trying to make a difference uh, with that privilege. And it's really a time right now to I've been really looking into my inner self of what I have and what I can give. Um, to me, work is just it's routine. It's part of the day. It's an everyday thing. You show up. You're reliable. You're dependable. Um, living here in the United States, work is for a lot of us isn't something we is something maybe we do take for granted. Obviously, our country has unemployment, but it's overall still something that more or less the average person has a job to go to. I've grew up with strong beliefs and having a strong work ethic. I think you show up to work. I think you show up to work in a timely fashion. I think you try to, as much as we all have our personal problems outside, I think you try to show up and you try to put those aside for those 8 hours or so that you're there. But just thinking about how I feel some people take their jobs, they don't take their jobs seriously enough, but if they were to consider the alternative of if we look in some other countries where people aren't as fortunate and sometimes don't even have a job to go to. So poverty is not something I have personally, as myself, have been close to. And what I mean by that is I've grown up in a upper middle class family, and we always more or less had what we needed. But I have had opportunities to the see that in others, and what I mean by this is back in 2015 we started. I have a small group and we started backpacking, taking some trips, and we had our first trip in Newfoundland, Canada, And we were there on the west coast in Grossmorn National Park. And along that entire western coast of Newfoundland, it used to be a huge fishing industry. But now, after years and years of fishing, they've fished it up. What you have left there is just some, like a little bit of tourism money is what that part of Newfoundland depends on. And you're really seeing the actual struggles, though, of the people there, who their one main source of economy is gone. And then continuing on from there, I've been in Australia and been close to actually having an encounter, getting close to an encounter with the Aboriginals, and just seeing how they live versus how compared to the those living on the outside of the continent of Australia, and then going even into our own country here in the United States, and took a trip up to the Pacific Northwest in Washington, and got to see some of the Native American reservations up there that are just really truly look like they're living at the poverty line, and that's happening in our own country, which is really eye-opening itself. And then rich versus poor, that kind of leads me into the rich versus poor. When I think about rich versus poor, I can think about it on multiple levels, kind of like love. We can think of rich versus poor as monetarily. We can think that, you're rich if you have X amount of dollars, and you're poor if you're not making this amount of money. And that is one way to look at it. That is one way to look at rich versus poor. But there's also, going back to growing up with my faith, there's those who are spiritually rich and those who are spiritually poor. There are those who are rich because they have found happiness in simplicity, and there are those who are actually poor because, per se, they have everything, but at the same time they feel like they have nothing. And I think we're all trying to find in life this balance of rich versus poor, and we're trying to find our definition. We each are all trying to find what our definition is of that, and that might look different. It's like going back to love. It's going to look different for everybody, and it's interesting because we are all humans. We all share similar makeup. We all have 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 eyes, but it's up here, I feel like, is what's different, and how we perceive things, and I think that's what makes us great, though, too. It doesn't make us cookie cutters of one another, and I don't think we would ever want that. So